Alright, so this video is going to be kind of hard to make because it's about a project I don't actually have. This is something I was working on for research at college, but due to the whole virus situation, I was forced to, abruptly leave, and that project stayed there. I did manage to take some documentation of it, but it's all in vertical format, so I apologize in advance for that. But between that and some basic hand sketches, I hope I can pretty well convey the idea behind what I've been up to, because I think it's absolutely fascinating. So about 6 months ago, I saw 2 videos by Applied Science and David Price about their experiments with air bearings. This was a technology I had never seen before and looked absolutely amazing, so I knew I had to try it out myself. I immediately began researching and dove down a 3-month-long rabbit hole of air bearing antics, which was abruptly cut short by coronavirus. Regardless, I ended up building some pretty cool prototypes, and I wanted to share what I've made so far. I'll be assuming that you have a basic understanding of how porous media air bearings work for the sake of this video not being even longer than it needs to be, so if you don't, go watch either Ben or David's videos. They're both pretty good. So to start out, I wanted to see if it was even possible for me to make any sort of functional air bearing at all. So after buying some basic random graphite off of Amazon, as per Ben's suggestion, I threw together a simple planar air bearing, which you see here. All it consists of is a small graphite puck epoxied to the bottom of an aluminum plenum, connected to our 90 psi shop air. Basically, this. Air is distributed across the graphite evenly and emanates from the pores, creating a cushion of air between it and the surface it's riding on. Despite the general shoddiness, it worked well, and by briefly lapping the graphite on a surface plate, I easily achieved the flatness tolerances necessary for good function. However, there wasn't much I could do with this test piece beyond oohing and awing while sliding it around with my hand, so on to the next iteration it was. One thing I knew I wanted to try and tackle going into this project was air bushings, and eventually a proper air bearing spindle. These are significantly more difficult to make than flat planar air bearings because of the tight fit tolerances between the shaft and the graphite. Unfortunately, Ben's genius lapping method for cylindrical and spherical bearings only works on segments encompassing less than or equal to half of the shaft diameter. Full 360-degree contact bushings are a bit harder. David Price had some success by boring out his on the mill, but I decided I would try for something a bit easier just to see if it worked. The first bushing prototype looks something like this. Basically, a graphite insert is epoxied down into what is essentially just an aluminum cup. A little plastic ring is then epoxied on top to seal off the chamber, forcing the air coming in the side to flow out of the center bore and the top surface of the graphite. Here you can see the graphite insert, the plastic ring, and the shaft I made for this test bushing. The way I manufactured this was, instead of chasing dimensions trying to precision bore the graphite like David did, I simply reamed the bore to a 1/2 inch and then snuck up on the tolerances while I was machining the shaft. I find that it's much easier to hit the tolerances necessary using this method. In my research, the best results were found between about 4 to 6 10,000ths of an inch difference between the shaft and the bore diameters. As you may have noticed, this particular design can also handle axial loads because I left one of the faces of the graphite exposed and lapped it as well. The constraint in 2 axes allows for fun turntable demos like this. No magnetic support necessary. I also began to investigate the load capacities of these bearings around this time as well. By checking for electrical continuity between the shaft and the bearing, I was able to find the point at which the load was too great for the air cushion to support, and the bearing bottomed out. The thrust face on this particular bearing was about 2 inches in diameter and was able to support about 30 pounds. The question of load capacity also brings up the question of stiffness. While taking this picture, I noticed that there was a visible gap between the shaft and the graphite, so I started to investigate. I found that under no load, the thickness of the air cushion was measured to be up to about 10 thou, and its behavior acts almost like that of an air spring. This is obviously unacceptable for any use in a spindle, so the solution for this is to find a way to preload the bearings. Under a preload of about 20 to 25 pounds, the air gap decreases to less than 1 thou, and the stiffness increases exponentially. By sandwiching together 2 thrust faces under some preload, an extremely stiff but still frictionless bearing package can be created. I came up with 2 different configurations of doing this, the preliminary sketches of which are shown here. The sketch on the left is the concept I tried to implement as an afterthought on the first bushing prototype. As you can see here, I bored out the backside of the housing to expose some graphite parallel to the main thrust face. I then tapped a hole in the end of the shaft that allowed me to bolt on a lapped disc of aluminum that I would use as the second thrust face. That little square on top is a piece of foam I used as a spring to dial in the amount of preload. This modification worked, but the small surface area on the second face greatly limited the amount of preload I could apply before the load became too high and the bearing began rubbing. Still, it worked well for an afterthought. With these successes achieved, I started thinking about designing an actual spindle. My first thought was to simply scale up the configuration I used in my first test, which simplified basically looks like this. I'll call this the H configuration. I made some scaled up CAD for this design which look like this. Right off the bat, there are some obvious problems. There's almost no contact between the graphite and the housing itself, and the entire pressurized plenum is held together by epoxy which is under tension. Not good. It's basically a rigidity nightmare, not to mention a safety hazard. I'm sure I could have tuned this design and made something half decent, but I decided to go down the route of the second drawing on that whiteboard sketch. To summarize again, I started with this, modified it to turn it into this, the H configuration, but decided that going with something more like this, or a T configuration, was going to be the best bet. And here's what I came up with. While it looks complex, it's actually fairly simple, but luckily I actually decided to film a little on my design decisions, so here's past me to explain what's up. Alright, so here we have the most recent prototype of the air-bearing spindle, and the way this is different than the other ones I've showed so far is instead of using an oversized housing to create a large pressurized plenum around the graphite insert, this uses a series of grooves to distribute air evenly, and that way it maximizes the contact between the graphite bushing and the housing. So for example, here's one of the bushings that hasn't been machined yet, or the grooves haven't been machined yet, and it's a snug fit down into the housing here. So the air injection port on the side feeds directly into this chamfer, which you can see here. So when the grooves aren't machined, the only area in which there's a pressurized chamber is this little chamfer area right here. But here we have a finished bushing, and you can see these grooves machined all into it. So as the air is injected into the pressurized area right around this shoulder, the grooves can then evenly distribute it across the entire face of the bushing, and therefore provide a more rigid bearing, but with the same even air distribution. So this is the one we've just finished up, and the housing it will go in. I'm about to epoxy this in place, and the epoxy will be on all of the faces which don't have grooves machined into them to maximize the strength of the bond. And once that's all done, it'll be machined once it's cured in place, refaced, bored for the shaft, and the whole assembly will go together like this. It's two of these thrust and axial faces here, and a long bore through both of the bearings to provide radial load capabilities. And these will be sandwiched together to provide a bit of preload and will serve as a functional spindle. So we're going to epoxy these in place, machine them, and see how they turn out. So that's the design I ended up going with. Here are a few pictures of the machining process. Just for fun, I machined one of the halves of the housing on the manual lathe and then one of them on our CNC mill. Here you can see the difference. Here's the graphite inserts themselves starting to take shape, and finally what they look like with the air distribution grooves machined into them. And finally here it is all assembled. That little thing you see attached to the end of the shaft is an end mill tip I was using as a turbine of sorts to spin it up with compressed air. The fastest recorded speed I got was about 52,000 RPM, but I'm sure with a proper air motor system it could do much better. And that's exactly what I was about to start working on when the lockdown happened. Obviously I've not been able to do anything with this recently since I've been stuck at home, but I still wanted to share what I've done so far. Future developments will include a drive system, some sort of tool holding apparatus, and hopefully one day I'll be able to mount this on one of our CNC machines and take it for a spin with a 5 thou end mill. Until then, I hope you found this interesting. Thanks for watching.